And here we go. Real conversations with Kurt and Rob. So, what's on your mind? Let's just get right to it.
All right, so I've got two things that I have a huge gripe about with the left this week,
Mm-hmm.
and the one I want to definitely talk about and get into and make sure that we cover tonight is the whole issue that all the major cities, or at least liberal cities, I should say, in the country, whether it be San Francisco or Portland or Chicago or wherever, is that when the Black Lives Matter movement started, there was this whole push to defund the police.
Mm-hmm.
And I was all about defunding the police on this level,
Yeah, we spoke
which
about
is
that. Yep.
right, which is take away their damn war toys. They're not a military organization. They have no need for tanks. They don't have any need for and air to land weapons. They don't need any. They just don't need these things. And yet
Sorry. Hi,
we can.
Janet. How are you? I miss you. Thanks for tuning in. All right, carry on.
Okay, so when we gave them these toys, of course, like all boys, they want to play with these toys at any chance that they get. That's why we see this ridiculousness now for every traffic stop with every warrant that's out there, regardless of how minimal or how small it is. They go in with a SWAT team with knocking down doors, and it could be the silliest little thing too. It could be simply like, oh, somebody's being evicted, so they don't answer the door, so that gives you justice to run in there and knock their door down and with weapons drawn. It's absolutely silly, and this is what's happened. So I was all about defund the police on that level. Unfortunately, as I've said many times, the liberals can't be good with that. They have to go and take it to a whole nother level and completely blow it out of the water to where they completely ruin a perfectly good idea. So the Black Lives Matter in particular, were pushing to completely defund the police, as if to have no police department whatsoever, which of course is what they want, because then you have nothing but chaos, and then you have people who do nothing but take the opportunity, because they're opportunists, to go in and loot stores and things of this nature. And so this is what's happened in many of the major liberal cities out there, is that they, like, let's take New York City for instance. Not only do they have they taken away funding from the police, but they've taken away their power, basically saying, if you arrest these people, we're just going to let them go, which is what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, on the in New York City, they have what's called bail reform, because they said bail is um, prejudice. It's
No,
prejudice against poor
can I
people.
can I just say something just because it's relevant? That's the only reason why I
Yeah.
want to pause real quick. So let me write that down. New York, you were talking about bail reform, so you can pick back up where you left off. Because this is why I always say you gotta get the full story, before
Mhm.
people formulate opinions on things. And this is not a knock on you at all. It's just because maybe a year or so ago, maybe even a year and a half ago, we actually spoke about that, and I think it got a little fiery when we were talking about the whole defund the police thing, and because just like you said in the beginning, you were about it, and
Mhm.
I was just trying to say that, like, this is so blown out of proportion because we're judging this based on what we're being shown. And I know you were a police officer, so you have a deeper insight. But for me as a civilian, and I've lived, I don't want to say I've lived in a lot of places, but I've lived in a good amount of places, and I've always had good relationships with the cops. Like, these are some good dudes that they're, like, I know their families, I know their kids, and I've met a couple where I was like, all right, this one's got a couple screws loose, but it's like overall in totality, like, I've hosted events where the cops have come to, and they've given donations and they've helped out, and it's like that side is never shown. Like, the only
Well,
side that's shown is they'll show you George Floyd. They'll show you Tamir Rice, and they'll show you Rashard Brooks. Is like they show you all of the bad ones, but they don't show that guy who pulls over to help the stranded woman change her tire. It's like that doesn't get shown. So it's like I'm just saying, we just have to look at things in its totality before we really, take a stance like that.
Well, while you're absolutely right, unfortunately, a big part of that onus, it lies on the shoulders of the police officers because of what they do. Now, I will compare them to religious organizations.
Mm-hmm.
For many people, religion is the bane of society. They're responsible for more deaths and more wars than anything else combined.
Mm-hmm.
However, we can show religious groups that do good things, when their hurricanes come, or, they're out, giving, communities donations or water or whatever it might be, or they help with feeding the homeless or things of that nature. Yes, they do some good, but in comparison to the bad that they do, and you'll find they only do it like usually within their own groups. So while, now that's not to say that's the truth in all matter, because I agree, there's cops out there who will go above and beyond the call of duty. They will help people all the time. But then there's other cops where people are afraid for them to even come out because they might have a flat tire and end up in jail because this cop didn't like the way they spoke to them or something. So, so again, I agree. There's this push to show police in a bad light, but it really isn't hard to do when they put themselves in that bad light all the time. Now, with that being said, I still agree that bail is prejudicial. It only hurts poor people. Rich people, they don't give a shit about bail. They'll pay. It's no big deal. And so I understood that. But when you write a law and you make bail reform, and you don't use common sense, like, look, yeah, you can get out of bail the first time, but if you commit another illegal act, a criminal act, and you get caught, you're not getting bail, reduced this time. You're going to pay bail. And yet that's not what New York City did. So now you have they're professional criminals, where they go out and I know there are two of them that have committed over 100 crimes, 100 thefts, because they know that they're going to get released. And then all these people who are out there looting, not even once have I seen one of them going to a grocery store and stealing food. It's always TVs. It's always
shoes.
Shoes. It's whatever they can get their hand. It isn't about feeding your family. This is completely about taking an opportunity to steal for your own selfishness, and then blaming the cops or blaming society or blaming. You're so full of shit that it makes me want to puke, because you're nothing but the scum of the earth to me. You're the scum of the earth. And don't tell me like, well, Target counts, is expected, that no. So now Target, Whole Foods, Starbucks, and the many other stores are pulling out of these neighborhoods. Now, who does that hurt? The people who live in those neighborhoods, where they already, many of these neighborhoods are food deserts, where they don't have stores, where they have to walk miles and miles to get to a store to buy their groceries, or take a bus if they have the fare to take a bus, or get there however they need to. I saw a lady today, she had 5 bags, Publix bags, hanging on her arms, and she's walking. I was like, holy crap, man. She's a skinny lady, but she's walking with these bags because in her neighborhood they don't have a Publix. Why? Because Publix isn't going to put their stores in a neighborhood where they're going to get stolen blind. And no company, no business is going to do that. So instead of sticking up for these people, or instead of standing by them, the community has to come together at some point and go, we're not putting up with this crap. We're not going to let you continue to ruin our neighborhoods. We're not going to continue to have to suffer because you, I'm going to control my language, because these are punk ass little bitches is what they are. And they don't care about anyone but themselves, and they don't care who suffers. So, so what happened was, there was an incident up there where a convenience store clerk, this lady came in, and She wanted to pay for chips. She didn't have the money, so the guy took the chips back because she didn't have the money. She goes tells her boyfriend. Her boyfriend comes around the counter and starts shoving this old guy against the wall and stuff and starts hitting on him. The guy pulls out a knife and stabs him. Well, the guy, so the guy who was attacking him ended up dying. Well, the mayor came out the next day and said, this was clearly self-defense. This old man was in fear of his life. He was being threatened by this thug who was going to try to beat him up or do worse simply because he wouldn't let his girlfriend have the chips. And so the whole community was behind him. The DA said, no. The real victim is the guy who got stabbed to death because he was black and he was misunderstood. There's no fucking misunderstanding, nothing. This reminds me of days back when Jesse Jackson, during the riots in LA, after, what's his name? The one that started
Homeboy.
Yes. With Rodney King. Okay,
Rodney, yep.
When Jesse Jackson came out and they were showing black people looting their neighborhoods and burning down stuff, and Jesse Jackson said, well, you just have to understand them. I was like, if I was a black person, I would punch him right in the mouth and say, don't make excuses for the way, because that's what you're telling, that we're not civilized enough and that white people need to understand us because we can't act civilized. Don't speak for me as a black person because I can be civilized. And many, if not an overwhelming majority of black people do act civilized and don't act in that manner. So don't act as though that is the community as a whole, because it is not. You don't speak for the black community if you're going to talk like that. So again, I'm saying a whole lot. So anyway, this DA decided to charge the clerk with murder. Now here's the kicker. There's bail reform. He gets charged with a bail of $250,000, which he can't pay. The bail reform didn't apparently apply to him because he was white. So he had to stay in jail for 6 days until there was such outrage from the community and from everyone else, from the mayor on down, that the DA had to drop the charges. But it's like, how ridiculous. And it's this kind of ridiculousness that causes where the right goes, the people on the left, you're fucking crazy. And I can see why they say that, because in these particular instances, they are crazy, but they're not the left that I speak for. They're not the left that I'm on, and they're not the majority of the left. They're the idiots who buy into every stupid thing and take it to the extreme. And I'm just over it. So that's my first rant from the left this week.
Yeah, so I don't have anything in particular. I know that's what you wanted. You wanted something in particular.
I knew it.
Right?
I said, I will be shocked if he really comes out with something on the right and says,
let me finish this sentence, though. Let me finish this sentence. So, I'm just saying it's not something in particular, but like I said to you last time, is because the left just gives so much content. It's like just so much. I'm looking at hold on, right? Because I'm looking at this war in the Middle East that's happening now. So this Hamas attack, these guys killed over last I looked, and I haven't looked in a couple of days. Last I looked, the death toll was over 1,000. A lot of women, a lot of children, a lot of teenagers, and the lefties are saying, I stand with Palestine. And it's like, all right, you stand with Palestine, but did you not see what they just did? I mean, Kanye West made a tweet about something being anti-Semitic, and the left melted down over it. And these people just killed 1,000 Jewish people. And now you're standing with them. So it's like I always say to you, that's my biggest issue with the left, is they constantly wait, let me finish, right?
I know.
I listened to you for like 10 solid minutes. Right? It's like,
yeah, but you agree with me. That's the difference.
Well, I agreed with most of it. There were some things I could have fired back on, but it's like, we were trying to not debate.
You're going to stick up for the left? Wait, if you ever get to a point where you feel like sticking up for the left and you want to fire back, please do that. I would welcome that.
Please do that. All right, so anyways, it's like that's always been my biggest issue is the constant flip flopping. It's like how can you be pro Jew and then this terrorist organization like you can't even say the Palestinian government like Hamas is a terrorist organization that launched this unprovoked attack that killed all of these Jewish people, and somehow you're cheering this on. It's like because like I've been watching left wing, well, like liberal media this whole week, trying to see what they're talking about, see what the hot button topics are. But then this war started, and then I'm watching these videos and I'm watching these demonstrations. And I'm like, these people are freaking loony. It's like I just don't get it. It's like, excuse me, a lot of the things that the people on the right do, and I've said this to you before, it's expected. You know what I mean? Like them overturning Roe versus Wade didn't catch anybody off guard. It's like they told you 40 years ago that they were gonna do it. Like Ron DeSantis tells you what he's gonna do. Trump has zero filter. He tells you what he's gonna do, whether it's right or wrong. But the demon that you're dealing with. Like this. But with the left, it's like they're currently building the wall that when Trump was building it, they said it was racist.
That was my second thing.
Right? They're telling people to stay in Mexico. When Trump said stay in Mexico, he was racist. Know what I'm saying?
That's not exactly the truth. That's not exactly the truth, but there is truth that they just would not fund a wall because Trump wanted to fund a wall. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, but that part with the whole stay in Mexico thing, like Eric Adams, before they started busing the migrants to New York City, he was all about we're a sanctuary city and we welcome everyone, and talking about Ellis Island back in the day until they started shipping the migrants over there. And then 2 weeks ago, you just shake your head. He's on video. Saying, I don't see an end to this in sight. This is a problem. It's like, but just last year when it wasn't affecting your city, you were all about it, saying the people in Texas and Arizona just need to deal with it, be humanitarian until it hits your backyard. Now you got a problem with it, and now you want to speak out about it. Whereas with the Republicans, that's just a talking point. But now when it hits you and you see that it's an actual problem and that the border needs to be closed and people need to apply to come here legally, like you and I, we can't just roll into Germany and just integrate into society. It would never happen. We can't even do that in Canada. It'll never happen, right? We're not going to just cross into Mexico. It'll never happen. But yet here, the lefties are fighting for it, and that's why they're fighting for, I know I'm shifting gears really quick, and that's why they're fighting for voting without ID so that all the illegals they're letting in can vote. Go ahead.
Okay, so what was your homework this week?
I already admitted that I didn't do the homework.
Yeah, you did. But you just named 4 things. See, you can't do it. This is my whole problem with you. Whenever I have a problem with you, it's because you say, oh, no, I call out both sides. You'll only call it out if I call it out first when it comes to the right. You go, yeah, they do that. But you refuse to call them out first for what you could have taken the same thing. You could have taken Israel and Hamas, for instance. And you could say, I'm tired of what the right keeps doing. They keep pushing this whole thing about, that we're supposed to be on their side and pro-Jew and all this stuff. The right does the same thing that the left does. Both of them look at this war as though it's some Disney picture, like there's a good guy and a bad guy. And I'm sorry, they're both bad guys. Hamas is a bad seed. Netanyahu is a war criminal. He is a fucking warmonger, and he has come out and said that he likes that Hamas is there because Hamas gives them the reason to destroy the Palestinians. He wants them there. In fact, it just came out today that Netanyahu knew about this 8 days prior to the attack. He knew it was coming. Why didn't he do something about it? Because he doesn't want to do anything about it. He wants people to die, so he has an excuse to go in there and wipe the Palestinians off the face of the earth. That is what his goal is. And for anyone to sit there and pretend like, oh, this is, and even for the left to pretend like, oh, Israel's completely wrong or the Palestinians are completely wrong, they're both wrong. That's the thing. So yes, Hamas, what they did was atrocious, but Hamas should be what's attacked, but it's not. It's innocent civilians, women and children. And Netanyahu said, even has gone. Even Ben Shapiro said this. I don't care. Ben Shapiro doesn't care about innocent people being killed because he considers them collateral damage. You know what I've always found? This sickens my stomach, is that people like Ben Shapiro, Rush Limbaugh, George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, all of them, all these warmongers never have ever fought their own battles ever in their life. But they want to show how big and brave they are, talking about war all the damn time. But those fuckers wouldn't get out there and fight their own fight if somebody challenged them out in the street, because they're all a bunch of pussies who want to try to act like they're badasses. People who fought in wars, those are the people who are the first ones to say, we need to see if we can negotiate first. That is our first recourse. It's just like police. You need to bring it down, try to de-escalate, and let's see where we can go before we just start throwing punches. But not these guys, because they're all these fake ass brave people who hide behind their microphones. But if I said, okay, Ben Shapiro and Netanyahu, you get out there on the front lines and I'll be right behind you. You think they would ever do that? Hell no. You think George W. Bush would lead the army into war? No, but he sure in the hell doesn't matter. He doesn't think for 1 second to send innocent Americans in there to fight a war that had nothing to do with 9/11. Nothing. And he knew it. And he lied to American people. And then today I saw on the left, which really pissed me off, was when they said that the U.S. is, the thing that matters the most is that the U.S., it takes international law so seriously. Bullshit. When have we ever taken international law seriously? Only when it applies to others. When it applies to us, we ignore it, just like we always have and always will, because nobody can do a damn thing to us. If we actually listen to international law, Dick Cheney and George Bush and Obama and probably Clinton and a whole slew of others should be in prison right now for their actions. But we'll never see that because we don't give a damn about international law. Now, back to you. It would have been easy to find two things that the right did. I mean, we just looked at what they did, the circus that they got going on with getting rid of, what's his name? McCarthy. And it's such a shit show of a circus. They don't even know. They're fighting so amongst themselves like clowns. They're ruining their own party, honestly. And if Trump loses, it won't be because of Trump. It'll be because of those clowns. They're the ones who are going to get Americans to go, I can't put up with this nonsense anymore.
All right, so you said a whole lot again.
Yeah, you didn't do your homework. That's what I'm going to say.
So let's go back to the war, right? War is one of the most profitable things that you can do. Like, people, let's go back to the Great Depression, right? The Great Depression wasn't ended by the president. The Great Depression was ended by World War II.
Okay,
and all of these wars that pop up, because there's money in building the tanks, the artillery, and all this other stuff. And it's like these nations need it. They need it for their economies. So going back to what you were saying, it's so quick how everything, no matter what it is, everything becomes right versus left. And neither side is innocent here because they both do it. And so if somebody gets killed, it's like, oh, well, right wingers, egg this on. How do you know? It's like, how do you know? Just because you don't know what's going on in somebody's mind. You don't know what they're dealing with. But within 24 hours, the media has decided that it's a right-winger thing or it's a left-wing extremist thing. And it's all nonsense because there's people who just watch it and just run with it and don't do any other research. Don't wait for more info to come out. Don't wait for the police body cam to come out. and they just start plastering the internet with whatever it is that these people show. And I've told you, I've been on the inner workings of some of these talks where they're deciding what to tell the public. It's like they're not telling you the entire truth. So anyone that just blindly follows left-wing media, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you blindly follow right-wing media, you're doing yourself a disservice, because their job is to appease their bases. And why? Because those places are funded by the big corporations that have political aspirations. Because these politicians, I should say these billionaires, will tell the politicians, this is what we need, give us the laws to make it happen, and here's $5 million for you and the family. That's how government works. And it doesn't matter if it's right or left, because government, like Congress, gets paid a certain amount, Senate gets paid a certain amount, but yet they're all worth tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's really what it is. Like, we can sit here and we can argue over policies and all this other stuff. It doesn't matter. What the corporations want is what they're going to get. And again, going back to the people on the left who are talking about down in the corporations, and the corporations need to pay 25%. That shit ain't never happening. Just stop it. It's not happening, because the corporations,
it's not happening because of the right.
The corporations fund the politicians. That's why it's not happening. That's why. And they're funding them on both sides. Those corporations are never going to pay 25% in taxes. Never. They always say never. I'm telling you, never. It's never going to happen, because those politicians are going to lose their funding.
I'm going to tell you, and this is what I said back when there's a gentleman who I know. He's a Jeet Kune Do instructor, which is it's a martial art that Bruce Lee created, okay? And he spoke like a coward. He said, don't throw your vote away on Bernie because he's never going to get voted in. I said, that's spoken like a true loser, because it's only not going to happen because you don't have the courage to vote what you know to be right. You are going to vote with the populace, which everyone knows both sides are wrong, but you're going to vote with the populace because you're too scared to vote the right way. I go, that's a coward's move. And to say that it will never happen, I disagree. I think it will happen when the people grow a set of balls and start voting the way they know they're supposed to vote, instead of voting the way the news tells them to vote. Because they're saying, oh, well, Bernie would never stand a chance, or Marianne Williamson would never stand a chance. It's fortunately, and I give credit to those people on the right who voted for Trump, who said, I don't care. They voted for Trump because he was told Trump would never stand to get a chance against all those Republicans that he was running against. And he blew them all out of the water because the people on the right didn't listen. The people on the left were too stupid to listen. And that's why Hillary, well, not only that, but also the DNC screwed Bernie out of it. But that's why Hillary ended up as the nominee and not Bernie. And that's why Hillary lost, because nobody could stand Hillary. And people including on the left, which me, I couldn't stand her because she's a liar, she's corrupt, she's all those things that I talk about Mitch McConnell, and if not more, honestly. I still have a thing about Foster and him committing suicide back in the day. But anyway.
So back to what you were saying about, people are afraid to vote the right way and all this other stuff. And we've touched on this before, just like in 2020. Bernie, to your point, he was the leading vote getter. He is who the people were voting for, and the DNC pulled him. That's what I mean by it's never going to happen. That has nothing to do with a loser's mentality. I'm old enough to see how the game is played, and the game is going to be played by what those billionaires want. They will make it happen.
Listen, when you have the power of the people behind you, just like the rich, you can change the rules. The DNC is nothing more than a group of Democrats who come together and have made these rules. You don't have to play by the DNC rules. You can create your own DNC, call it the progressive DNC if you want, and watch what happens. Start sending funding.
Yeah, George Soros is going to send you $5 million to change your tune. That's what's going to happen.
I don't care what. No, he's not. And here's the thing: it's because people like Bernie and Marianne Williamson, they don't take funding from George Soros, so they don't need his money.
That's what I'm saying. But the ones that take it are the ones that block it.
But I'm saying the people who want real change and who really, Matt Gaetz said something this week, and Matt Gaetz he's in that top 3 people I cannot stand. Like he's one of the most corrupt and most vile people you will ever meet. But he actually said something right. I don't think he said it because he believed it, but he said it anyway. And so I'll give him credit for saying. But he said that we need to get money out of politics. Yep, now, I believe that he knows. I know he believes that's going to fall on deaf ears, and that's the only reason he said it. But at least he had the balls to say it, and I don't know what his motivation was. But if he meant it, I would give that guy at least an ounce of respect, which I don't give him right now. So he's right, though. We need to get money out of politics. And you need to start voting for people who want to get money out of politics. You start voting for those people. They start gaining more and more seats in office. And guess what? Before you know it, we will get rid of the Nancy Pelosi's and the Mitch McConnell's and the Ted Cruz's and Marco Rubio's. Those scum will go find something else that they can screw over to make money off. But they can get out of the fucking games of politics and leave it to the people that could be governed properly by people who care about them. That's what we need to do. But to say we can never do it, you're right. If Henry Ford, I love the guy's. This is my favorite quote of all time. He said, "Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right." So as long as we keep believing as a people we can't do it, we'll be right. But the moment we choose to change our perception and say we can, we'll be right then as well. So I say start changing it now. Be right that you can change it and that we can make a change and we will make a change. But we'll see how people vote.
The problem is, the problem with that is it's like I agree with you on one front. On an individual level, yes. If you believe you're right, Robert, you believe you're wrong. Let me finish the sentence. I've been good about not interrupting.
I know, and I'm
today.
sorry, but I'm saying you're right, but you can't say as a group, because even as a group is nothing but a pile of individuals.
Well, so I know, but let me finish my sentence. Let me finish my sentence so you know where I'm going with it. Right?
Okay, so, I'm sorry.
So on an individual level, yes, like if you decide you want to write a book, and I say like, Kurt, you know what, you can do it. Do what you got to do. Write your book. If you believe you can do it, you can make it happen. The problem is we have millions of blind followers where you can tell people the path to prosperity, and then they'll watch a TikTok video talking about how oppressed they are and how women are oppressed and there's no opportunities for anyone and white men are ruining the country. And that's what they're being fed every single day via TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, the television, the mainstream news. And like you and I are critical thinkers. It's like we can look at something and we can say that's bullshit. But there's so many people out there that hear the same bullshit and they take it as fact. That's my issue. Like if there was a bunch of people like us, I'd be like, no, we can band together and we can change this whole system. But there's so many people that just see whatever it is that they see and that becomes their truth. Like I tell you all the time, how the left has harmed the Black community, and 90% of these people will vote Democrat every 4 years, every single time. And walk around your neighborhood, look around. Like he was a comedian, but I was watching a video earlier where this guy was talking about how, like, you move into a predominant white neighborhood, neighbors come, they knock on your door, they give you a plate of cookies, they welcome you into the neighborhood. He's like, when people move into the hood, he's like, nobody welcomes you. He's like, you're moving into hell. And it's like, now he's joking, but he's not wrong. I don't know
Right.
if you've been to like a real project like in New York City. And like some of my family members have lived this. Like I've been there. You walk in the door and there's people pissing in the hallway and people
Yeah.
sleeping on the floor, and you know what I mean. You see kids just wandering with no parents in sight. It's like that's where you live, and the people who are proclaiming to be all about you and bettering you and giving you a better quality of life, like you're voting for them, and this is what you have. And they'll keep voting for them. So it's situations like that why I say it won't happen, not in my lifetime anyway, because the politicians are taking it to the freaking bank. Like, COVID happened. We have a worldwide pandemic, and it quickly became right versus left. I
Right.
mean, Roe versus Wade is a right versus left thing, but every big thing that comes out, it immediately becomes right versus left, and so that divide, it's never gonna mend. It's like we can't have unity when there's two completely different points of view that's
Okay.
out there in the mainstream. I mean, yeah, 9/11, we had it for what, six months after 9/11, like everybody was, high-fiving and shit and waving American flags. But the way things are now, even waving the American flag, they're like, you support white supremacy if you wave the American flag. I'm like, what? It makes no sense.
Okay, so here's what I'll push back with you. I don't believe that you even believe that, because here's the thing. If I believe that and if you believe that, then this show that we're doing, it's useless. We're wasting time. I believe that this show, and I believe individually talking to people, I believe my show that I did, I believe the show that you do, and individually on your own time, we talk to people. We talk to, I don't know how many you talk to, but I know you train a lot of people. And I know that you have a lot of people you talk to throughout the day, and you have these tough conversations. And you get people to open up and think and go, oh, now I understand where you're coming from. See, one by one, each of us who has this understanding, we start talking to the people, and sooner or later, we're going to have the majority of people who can. Those people who are lost, they don't even vote anyway. They're too busy being oppressed to believe that their vote counts. So I don't care about reaching them. They're a lost cause. They don't want to be reached. They like living in their misery. Have at it. That's you. That's you. You do your thing. But the majority of people aren't like that. And I do believe that individually we can reach more and more people. And again, even this show, if we just reached one person, that's one person more than we had yesterday. And so I believe with that, we can make change and we will make change because more and more people are waking up and seeing that both the left and the right are screwing us and that we can't believe either one. Yes, there's still this divide because they're having a hard time letting it go, but they know that both sides are wrong. Even the ones who are adamantly on the right and those who are adamantly on the left know they're being hypocrites at times because they know their side has done just as bad, if not worse, than the other side on many topics and told many lies. And we know in this country, it's like I believe this is the greatest country on earth. But to sit there and say we're the greatest country on earth and we've never done anything wrong, that's bullshit. And we all know that's bullshit. We've probably done more wrong to this world than any other 10 countries combined with what we've done to other governments, yeah. When you talk about the upheaval of governments across this globe that we're responsible for, the deaths of leaders and that we're responsible for, guaranteed. And then, just like this whole Ukraine and Russia thing, the left is completely lost in the fact that they want to call out the right and say, oh, it's nice that you're pro Putin. It's not that the right is pro Putin. They just understand that Ukraine is corrupt and that, hey, maybe we as a country broke our promise to Russia that we wouldn't push NATO closer and closer in closing in on their borders, and yet we've continued to lie and continue to do that. If Russia did that to us, we would consider that an act of war. But because Russia is saying, no, we're not putting up with you keep pushing your borders close to us and taking over more countries, and we're not standing for it. Oh well, then this is uh, an attack that was caused out of nowhere for nothing. No, they have a right to be pissed. They have a right to push back. And I'm not saying that you know that it's that clean cut. I'm saying, but don't act like we're in the right the whole way and Russia's the only one in the wrong, because I don't agree with that whatsoever. And the left is being disingenuous by calling the right out and trying to make like they're pro Putin because of it.
I agree with that. I mean, again, with me, it goes back to money. Right. Like this whole thing is about money, and going back to what you just said. The problem is the group think. Group think is so rampant now, and I mean it happens on both sides. But I think the left does it a little more. It's always like, well, if you think this, then that, or if you vote for this person, then you this, and it's like, no, like I said, things don't have to be an absolution. Like if I decide to vote for Trump in 2024, that doesn't mean I endorse everything the man's ever said or done. And like that's the problem. Like people stay in their bubble because they're afraid of what the mob is gonna say. There are many people who support Trump who will never ever come out and say it in public, and vice versa. There are people like, "Ooh, I don't talk about politics," So in that regard, as I agree with what you're saying, we want to reach people, but I had said I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime. Maybe down the line we can look down and like, oh shit, they did it. but just the way things are now, where it's like, if I say there's only two genders, well, you're a transphobic, you're a this, you're a that. I'm like, no, my entire life I grew up and there were two. So now in the last 5 years, I have to unlearn all of that and change. And so like that's what I'm saying about the group think. It has such a stranglehold on society, and especially the Gen Zers. The Gen Zers is like forming their own little mob here going on. And those, when you and I are old men, those people are going to be the people in charge.
Well,
and they thrive on groupthink.
Right, they do. But I think what's happening with Gen Zers, or Zoomers, as I like to call them, is that they're starting to realize that when you're part of groupthink, then you become part of their hypocrisy. And if you have any integrity whatsoever, that hypocrisy eats away at you to where you go, I can't be a part of this any longer. And I think that's what's going to happen, because I do think Gen Zers in the beginning, their whole thing was is they weren't going to buy into just anything just because you said so. They challenged everybody, which on the surface, that's great. You shouldn't just believe people just because they say something. And so that was great. But then, as you said, they fell into these two parties, if you will, of how to think in these group things. And I think what's going to happen, and what's starting to happen, is that they're realizing the hypocrisy of their own group things, and they're starting to go, I don't want to be part of this. But this all started, at least from what I can remember, this started back with George W. Bush and 9/11, and saying, you're either with us or you're against us. There's no middle ground. And ever since then, we have become more and more of that. And it's both sides who fall, agree. I agree. The left actually, has taken it to another level, but the right is just right there saying the same thing. Look at the MAGAs. If you're not with us, you're against us. And if you are, pro all of everything that we say, then you're a traitor, you're a rhino, you're all this nonsense. And it's just stupid, because it's that kind of thinking that's causing this country so much harm right now.
Yeah, and they're the ones that are pushing it. It's like they need that divide, because as long as we're divided, they can keep control over us.
Right, exactly.
And then if anyone stands forward and is like, you know what, we can do this, they're gonna end up dead.
Right.
It's like that. That's how it happens. You're trying to tell me there's not someone out there that's found a cure for cancer yet? It's like cancer is
That's
global. It's
let me tell you,
global, right? Like
that's a
the person,
whole nother thing. If
right?
you
The
go
person
against,
that comes up, it says, "I found the way to cure cancer." They're gonna kill that person because they're gonna
they
lose
already sued a doctor.
trillions.
They already sued a doctor whose methods were working and sued him. He was a doctor. He's a doctor out in
Mhm.
Texas. The doctor won, but they were all pissed off because he didn't do it through their organization.
Mhm.
That's what they're pissed because they didn't get their money, and that's what they're pissed
It's
off about. But
insane. I know.
um,
I know.
I,
I know you got to go.
I
So let's give some final words.
okay, my final word is your homework for next week is to find two things from the right that you are upset about. Don't give me no excuses. There's so much on the left. I can't, don't give me that nonsense because the right has more than enough on their side that it would be easy to find two things that bug you that the right did this coming week.
And I will remind you that I am a 3-time college dropout, and I don't do well with homework.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's
you
an
got you got
excuse.
you got nothing for that one.
Well,
Oh,
here's
God.
as a good teacher, I'll make sure I bring something to show you. So if you don't do your homework, I'll show you what you missed out on.
Yeah, send me some videos. Like I send you videos all
I,
the time. You send me nothing.
yeah, you know what you send me videos of what the left is doing. You never send
Exactly.
videos, right? So
So
send me stuff.
send me some of what the right's
No,
doing.
because here's the thing. If you're as open minded as you say you are, and you can see when the right is being hypocritical or lying or whatever, it'll be easy for you to send me those things.
But I despise the left. That's why it stands out to me.
Yeah,
That's
but you
why.
need to, so yeah, but the right you should despise the right as much as the left. Because the right has been just as horrendous to minorities as the left has. The left just plays it a different way. That's all.
All right. That in itself sounds like a good topic for next week.
All right.
All right, sir. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Take
All
care.
right. Bye.
Bye.